Hey, everybody, welcome back to another podcast for the Rising Tide Leadership Company. My name is Mo, and today I'm with Dr. Lem, and we're exploring Myers-Briggs, the type identificator, or what people know as the MBTI. Dr. Lem, what's up, man?
What's going on, man? Always great to be with you, and I'm really excited about this topic.
Yeah, I got to say, this is one of my favorites.
What is it?
Yeah. I mean, talking about personalities, we use the DISC assessment, but I knew my Myers-Briggs before any of the other
Yeah.
personality assessments that I took. So, man, I was excited when I got this lesson from you.
Yeah.
Do you have anything before I get to those?
Man, I learned something in writing this. Like I use the Myers-Briggs type indicator a ton because it's just so accessible and so easy. And I understand the tool well enough to better understand myself, better understand people, and then build teams accordingly. But there were some insights that came out of this article that I didn't even know, that I had never thought about. So it was good learning for me. So excited to share it.
Yeah, so let's start with leadership over representation. So the ENTJs, the ESTJs, and the INTJs appear 3 to 5 times more in the executive room. So what makes these types naturally rise to leadership?
Now, I want to start by saying that it doesn't matter what your Myers-Briggs type indicator is. You can lead, you can find yourself in a leadership position, but you just have to know the organization, and you need to, like Jim Collins says, find yourself in the right seat on the bus. But typically these three types, or these three personalities, they show up 3 to 5 times more in executive rooms because this is what we all think a leader looks like. Somebody that's extroverted and somebody that can make decisions, be decisive, someone that's outspoken. And there's an I in there, but I think those I's can show up as E's, and they just know the toll that it takes on their sense of self when they're needing to be extroverted. Like, I know you're an I, but you come across as an E really, really well. So yeah, there was a lot of discovery, and there's a lot of insight for me. What makes these three stand out is the fact that they're TJs, thinking and judging, or think about judging as ordered. And that's not to say that if you're not one of these things, if you're not one of these types, that you can't find yourself in executive rooms, but it tells me a couple of things. One, you need to be good and comfortable. You need to be comfortable in front of people. You need to be extroverted enough where you could show up to a room and just command the room. Number two, you need to be organized. That's where the J comes in. But just organized enough, because there's some people that are just too organized that can't get stuff done. You know what I mean? And well, that's a different conversation. And then number three, if you're not one of these types, then you need to develop at least the TJ or the E part, or fake it well enough to look like that kind of a leader. And so that was a big aha for me, that the E and the TJ combination really looked like leadership in executive rooms.
Yeah. Why is the TJ combination, thinking and judging, so heavily represented?
My thought is that it makes you decisive, and you're organized enough to understand what's happening, and then it allows you to make objective decisions. You're not making feelings decisions. You're not just going off of your gut. You're able to process it all fast enough to make decisions. And I think it helps you to stay calm in pressure situations. Like, as an F, you might be freaking out about stuff. And as a T, you just don't freak out about stuff. You're just like, here's the problem. This is what we got to do. And you're comfortable issuing directives. You're outspoken enough to just, hey, this is what we got to do. And you're calm enough to display that kind of strength with your team. So that TJ combination is heavily represented because they can lead, and they're calm enough, and they make good decisions.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about why extroversion and judging dominate. So executive teams are about 70% extroverted and 80% judging. Those are some pretty high numbers. So
Yeah.
why do you think that these preferences fit leadership roles so well? And what's the risk in assuming that extroverts make better leaders?
So the first thing is, they make better leaders because they have the charisma to speak up and to be upfront, and then inspire folks to follow, right? That being extroverted, feeding off the energy of the room, being able to speak and to project confidence, and to project, we can do this and I can make this decision. Like, it just looks like leadership. And so that's why 70% extroverted and 80% judging is, what those rooms look like. Now, the risk is that extroverts can burn out easier and faster if they're not careful. And then extroverts that aren't organized is dangerous because they're just too loud, but they're not good enough to have thought through the things. You know what I mean? And so I've seen lots of leaders that are extroverted and they can command the room, but they don't have the horsepower or they're not organized in their thoughts to like lead well. They're just loud, right? And just because you're loud, that doesn't necessarily mean you'll be a great leader. You got to be loud, but then you also have to be smart enough and organized enough in, so that the stuff that you're saying and the stuff that you're leading actually moves the organization, the team forward.
Yeah, a lot of people can talk the talk, but can they walk the walk? Let's talk about context-driven leadership types. So the ENFJs, INFJs, ENTPs, ISTJs, these all thrive in specific leadership environments. So how does context determine whether these types succeed or struggle?
So I would say there is an organizational context, first of all. Each organization finds itself in a particular organizational cycle. So you will need different types of leaders in different seasons. Or as this article suggests, you're going to need to balance the leaders type with its opposite in order to not miss anything. So, there are seasons where you're developing systems, and then there are seasons where you have huge growth. And then when you have huge growth and the systems can't keep up, you're going to need a systems person to kind of stabilize that organization or that team. And then once you have that stabilized, then maybe you need a visionary to like move it up to the next level. So you're constantly needing a different type of leader depending on the organizational context. But like this article suggests, if you can balance your leadership type and find your opposite, then you cover everything, right? So that, the visionary can do the vision, but then the systems person can also build the systems in order to make that vision become a reality. And so you got to think about like the context of the organization and what the organizational cycle is, but then also on the leadership level, can you balance a leader's, leadership type or personality type with what's needed in order to shore up those weaknesses so that you guys can grow together. And so, yeah, it totally depends on context of the organization, depends on the context of the team and the leader. And the success is if you have this balance and you know where you are in the cycle. But the struggle is if you're just heavy to the one side. If you're just heavy to the one side, then you don't have balance, and then you can't see what you can't see.
Yeah. How does understanding your MBTI type help you lead from identity as opposed to insecurity?
That's a great question. If you know your type, you can shore up your weaknesses and lead out of your strengths. And then you hire accordingly. You build a stronger team based off what you need as a leader and what the organization needs. And so when I was younger as a leader, I just wanted to hire people that like vibed with me and looked like me. I didn't want to be challenged because I was an insecure leader, but the older you grow, the more mature you grow in your leadership, like you welcome that challenge and you welcome that constructive criticism and you welcome that balance. It helps the team, it helps you as a leader, and you can move forward. And so knowing your MBTI type really helps you to lead out of your strengths, but it also helps you to figure out the people that you need to shore up your weaknesses, makes you a stronger leader.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I like to, do now. I mean, we talk about avoiding the clone army trap. And so why is leading only with people that match your type like you used to do? I think a lot of leaders think we all do that because it's security. So why is leading with people that only match your type? Why is that a blind spot?
We just did an episode on yes men and what it means to have yes men around you. I think the danger is that if you hire the same kind of people, you'll all have the same blind spot and you'll all fall into trouble because no one on your team can see, your blind spot. So, you just become heavy to the one side and the team's not balanced. I know you love balance, or like to have that personality that just balances yours. It allows you to see everything, right? And so, yeah, leading with only the people who match your type makes you heavy on the one side and not balanced. And no one there can see your blind spot. And so you're not growing, you're not challenging the status quo, you're not really leading, managing your insecurity and you're not growing as a leader and the team's not growing as well.
Yeah, so let's say a team is overloaded with one preference. They've got a bunch of TJs, a bunch of Is. What's the problems that could arise, and what does the leader do to balance that out?
If you have a bunch of TJs and NTs, it'll be a mean culture. They'll be direct, but not emotionally aware enough to care for each other or the team or for you as a leader. And this personality can get stuff done, but at the expense of relationships and feelings. So typically, just having all TJs and Ns and NTs is a toxic work environment. It's just mean. I mean, you know how people are thinking and how people are feeling. So if you can thrive in that situation, it's helpful. But to have all TJs and NTs and Ns, I mean, nobody's feeling and no one's feeling good. And it's just competition and it's a toxic culture. And so that's why balance matters, and having people that can organize and operationalize what those decisions that you're making, that's key. Because like in that setting, you guys are coming up with all kinds of great decisions, but none of you are organized to do it. So you need people that can organize and operationalize your vision. So that kind of leadership culture or work culture is very toxic. It can be very mean. So you need some feelings people and some systems people to like balance that out.
Yeah, so we want to match the type to the mission. So
Yeah.
not every team is going to need the same kind of leader. So why do certain types like ENTJs or ENTPs excel when there's chaos, while others like the ESTJs, they really shine in structured environments?
So the ENTJs and ENTPs excel in chaotic startups because they're not stuck in their feelings, right? They're just thinking, they're just making tough decisions, and chaos works for them. The ESTJ shines in structured environments because that's where they feel safe, right? Their feelings aren't necessarily hurt and they can kind of keep going. They shine in that structure because everything is organized, everything is detailed, and it works for them. And so finding this is what I think Jim Collins was talking about in get the right people on the bus and then find the right seats for them. Right? You need your salespeople to be extroverted, but you need somebody to like build those systems and ship those products. You can't put an extroverted or somebody that's P on that. They'll never get to it, or they'll get to it, well, never, because they're not organized enough to like ship those products. And so you need to get the right people in the right seats. And if you know what their Myers-Briggs type indicator is, it helps you to do that.
So there's people who complement each other, and we can see that in real life. So for instance, Jobs and Cook, they were incredible together. What makes pairings of opposite types so effective?
Man, if you have the right pairing and if you have that balance, you cover all your bases and you also cover your blind spots, right? And if there's trust in those opposite types, you can work through your strengths, and you can rely on your partner to support you where you're weak. And so that's kind of the point of this article. Know your Myers-Briggs type indicator, and then find somebody that you can partner with that you trust well enough to like work together on things. You and I, we have that NTJ, so we can come up with ideas and stuff. And we work with some people that are like, all right, you guys got some great ideas, but like, do you guys have enough structure to make this thing happen? And so we needed to work on that in order to be able to like sell this product and move the service, right? And it's nice to have people on the team that you trust that can point out the weaknesses and point out the things that we need as leaders in order to thrive. And so, you just need those pairings to call you out and keep you on track so that we can all move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm huge on getting people that are not like me on my team. It frustrates the heck out of me, but at the end of the day, it's those people, those men and women who say, Mo, like, wait a minute, let's move back here. What? I know you have the same kind of people in your life, because sometimes
Yeah,
guys like us, we can get so fired up about ideas and that people say, well, okay, well, that's great. How are we going to get there?
that's true.
So, yeah, that's great. Last question. What's a practical step that leaders can take this week to build a more balanced team around themselves so they are not stuck on just one type or a couple of types? Like, how do they figure that out? How do they know it?
First thing you need to do is to figure out what your Myers-Briggs type indicator is. There's all kinds of free tools to help you do that. The one that I typically go to is similarminds.com, and there's a bunch of personality tests on there, but just take the one that's either it's called the 16 type or the Jungian, Myers-Briggs is a particular version of that, but it has 4 letters in each one: EISNTF and then JP. And then you have some kind of combination of those letters. And once you figure out your Myers-Briggs type indicator, it'll help you understand the kinds of people and the kinds of team that you need to build in order for you to shine as a leader. So go figure out your Myers-Briggs type indicator and then support the people around you and find team members that can help you.
Yeah, it really is freeing. It's not what you want to be.
Yeah.
It's how you are.
Yeah.
Dr. Lem, I'm fired up about this.
Yes.
We're going to do more on these. I already told you.
Yep.
I said, but this is just scratching the surface. So let's break this down a little bit more. But until then, for the audience, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe this particular episode with somebody who needs to hear it, somebody who needs to know their personality. Sign up for our Rising Tide newsletter. It comes out every month. We give you all the good stuff. Until then, Dr. Lem, thanks, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.